So here is the lowest common multiple, and we're looking for the smallest number that is a multiple. And remember, like a multiple of 4 is 4, 8, 12, 16, basically your times table for 4. A multiple of 5 would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, all your times tables for 5. Now when you have two numbers together, the lowest common multiple is the smallest one that two different numbers have in common. So here's our first examples. Lowest common multiple of 4 and 5.
4.
Well, what are our multiples of 4? That would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, and so on. 28, oops. And our multiples of 5, I'll do in a different color. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on. Do they have any in common?
Yes.
Which one is the lowest one that's in common? 20. So lowest common multiple is practicing your timetables. You'll always get a common multiple if you multiply. Like 4 times 5 is 20. That will always be a common multiple, but you don't know for sure if it's the lowest one.
We should still be writing this down.
So for part B, if we do multiples of 2 in blue, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Is that going to be enough? And I do my multiples of 6 in green. And I do my multiples of 8 in red. Do we have any in common? 24. But I didn't do it in, I've got 24 here, 24 here. How do you know 24 would also be there? Because it's an even number. So eventually in the blue, you would get to 24, and that'll be the lowest common multiple of 2, 6, and 8. Yes? So for this one, it's 24. And for C, where we had 6, 8, and 12, let's see if you can go through your times table. And sometimes what people do is they start with the biggest number, because you don't have to write as many. So if I start with the biggest one, which is 12, is 12 a multiple of 8? No. So I go to another one, 24. Is 24 a multiple of 8? Yes. Is 24 a multiple of 6? Yes. So there's our answer. And we can figure that out quicker that way. But you could still list them all. And for those of you that like to know the math way of figuring it out, 6 is 2 times 3. 8 is 2 times 4, but 4 can be broken up to 2 times 2. So 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. And 12 is 3 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. And so 12 is 3 times 2 times 2.
What?
6 is 2 times 3. 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. And 12 is 3 times 2 times 2. In order to find the lowest common multiple using this, what I did here was I made something called factor trees, and this is called prime factorization, where you break up a number into factors that are all prime numbers. So whenever you have a number, like 12, I broke it to 3 and 4. Since 3 is a prime number, can't be broken up any further, I leave it. But since 4 is 2 times 2, I break it up even further. So now when I look at all the prime numbers in the 3 of them, my lowest common multiple, well, they all have 2's, right? Which one has the most 2's? The 8. It has 3 of them. So you will need 3 2's. Do any of them have any other prime numbers? Yes, both the 6 and the 12 have a 3, but they only have one 3. So you will only need one 3. And if you go 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3, you get 24. In this one, I think that's a longer way of getting it than what we did, right? We just went from 12 to 24 and figured out, yes, 24 works for all of them, so it's done. But you might sometimes have questions where there is more, so you might want a method, and that's a method for figuring it out. Why do we have a lowest common multiple? It's important for addition and subtraction of fractions. So what we're doing in the next little bit is we did fractions in the first unit. We do fractions again in this unit. Because for fractions you need a common denominator, and if you can find the lowest common denominator, that's like finding the lowest common multiple. Here are 4 questions to practice with fractions. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Some of them you need a lowest common denominator. Some of them you need a common denominator. Sometimes you don't need a common denominator.
Does that dot mean like it's...
This dot here means multiplication in number 2. These dots in 4 means divide.
I can finish in like 3 minutes.
Okay. All right, so the first one, the lowest common denominator between 7 and 35, which is the lowest common multiple between them, is 35. You get that by multiplying by 7. So if I multiply this by 7, I multiply this by 7, get 14. Multiply this by 5, multiply this by 5, I get 15. I'm adding, so I get 29 out of 35. Number 2, we're multiplying. When you're multiplying, you don't need to get the lowest common denominators. The rule for multiplying is multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. So one way of doing it is to do that directly. And 3 times 7 is 21, and 8 times 9 is 72. And then you have to reduce this. And this is where this method gets a little bit tougher, because I have to find something that divides both 21 and 72. And they both can be divided by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. 27 divided by 3 is 24. Now, if you don't want to have that complicated step at the end where you have to simplify the fractions, you can look earlier and say, hey, 3 over 8 doesn't simplify, 7 over 9 doesn't simplify, but you can also check the diagonals, and 3 over 9 simplifies to 1 over 3. And then you just have 1 times 7, which is 7, and 8 times 3, which is 24. And it's already reduced. Question number 3 is subtracting. For subtracting, do you need a common denominator? Yeah. Yes, you do. So between 8 and 6, the common denominator is, what is the lowest common multiple between them? 24. So this one needs to be multiplied by 3 and by 3. That'll give us -9. And this one needs to be multiplied by 4 and 4. That will give us 20. And there's a subtraction sign in between. -9 minus 20 gives us -29 over 24. Since there's no number that divides 29 and 24, we are done. For number 4, we're dividing, so we have to remember Flipsky doodles. Ryan. So we flip it over, and again, this might be a place where you check, can I simplify 4 over 5? No. Can I simplify 8 over 7? Can I simplify on the diagonals 4 over 7 or 8 over 5? No, so that when I multiply these and get 32 over 35, it's already in lowest terms. Okay, 4 more to practice. These ones are all mixed numbered ones. So one thing you can do as a first step is change them all into improper fractions. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1. This will be 7 over 3. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2, 17 over 5. Let's do that for all of them. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 1 is 16. And 1 times 3 is 3 plus 2 is 5. Let's change this one. 4 times 8 is 32 plus 1 will be 33 over 8. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 will be 5 over 2. And finally 1 times 5 plus 3 will be 8 over 5. 2 times 8 is 16 plus 7. 23 over 8. So there are all of our improper fractions. Cade, thank you. So if we're adding fractions, we need common denominators. So the common denominator here is 15.
When do you have a test?
It's coming up.
When?
That's not on there yet. What's that? No, this one, so far, this is non-calculator stuff. There are some, like here, this one was 17. I'd probably give you your calculator. Okay? 5 times 3 is 15. 7 times 5 is 35. Times by 3, because you probably don't know 17 times 3 is 51, right?
Yeah, I knew that.
And then 35 plus 51 is 86. So we get 86 over 15 as our final answer. You can leave it like that, or you can write it as a mixed fraction. For question number 2, you're multiplying. Do you need a common denominator from multiplying? No. Check. Can you simplify 16 over 3? No. 5 over 3? No. Any on the diagonals? No, can't simplify anything. So now we just multiply across. 3 times 3 is 9. 16 times 5 is 80. How do you do that? If you have $16, you have a $10 bill and then 3 toonies.
No.
Okay? Imagine that 5 times. Can you imagine 5 $10 bills?
Yeah.
And then what happens with your 3 toonies 5 times? How much money would that be?
You just said that. You said
3 toonies,
Yeah.
and you have 3 toonies 5 times.
5 times 3.
That would be 15 toonies. How much money is that?
Wait, what are you talking about?
How much money is that?
Wait, toonies or loonies? Toonies, so that'd be 15 times 2, right?
Yeah,
That'd be 30.
that'd be 30. So you have $50 in bills and $30. That makes $80. Okay, we're subtracting. Ooh, I like this one. What is the lowest common denominator between 8 and 2?
8, 2, 8.
It is 8. So in order to get an 8 here, you need to multiply both by 4, which would be 20. That gives me 12 over 8. Caden, thank you. 12 over 8. And 12 over 8, they both can be divided by 2. So if you do that, you'd get 6 over 4. Both can be divided by 2 again. So 3 over 2 is the lowest form.
You messed up.
I messed up, eh? Have,
Just so bad you messed up in.
have you ever done that before? A number just magically changes into something else? 33?
And it's recording.
And it's recording? Yeah, you guys, I'll put this on YouTube.
Unsubscribe.
And yeah. How do you know I didn't do that on purpose to see if you were paying attention?
Transitional math messes up.
Gets fired.
Works as a math teacher and in jail.
13 over 8. All right, dividing. Got to do our flipsky doodles, right? Is there anything you can simplify before we multiply? No, the 8s are on the top, right? You have to be dividing in order to simplify. So 8 over 5 doesn't simplify. 8 over 23 doesn't simplify. None of the diagonals simplify, so we just multiply 8 times 8. 64, 5 times 23, 115, and that is already in lowest terms.